Well, hello, North Dakota. I'm Frank Yoakum. I am the Executive Director at EANGUS, your enlisted association. I'm so glad that you're able to watch this video. This is a legislative update on what's happening in Washington, D.C., and oofto, do we have a lot of stuff to go through. Let me start off with TRICARE Reserve Select. TRICARE Reserve Select for federal employees is something that all the military technicians are worried about. We're working it. We've been working it for a couple of years now. It dropped out last year. This year we've got bills that have been introduced in January, both on the Senate and the House side, to get us TRICARE Reserve Select. Hopefully this is our year. If so, we'll all do a polka together, won't we? The other thing that we're looking at is TRICARE Reserve Select at no cost for those that are currently serving. So if you're currently serving in the Guard, you know that you're paying 28% of the premiums, but the active duty people are not. And so we're trying to get legislation introduced so that you're not paying anything either. Your dependents, you're gonna have to be able to pay for them. But for you personally, no charge. So we're working on that. It's not there yet. We're working on it. We're also working on a DD-214 for all periods of service, not just the periods of service that are over 90 days or over 100 days. So as you're very well aware, you need that DD-214 to document that service. And so we're working on getting legislation that says that any period of service you have under Title 10 is documented with a 214. We're also working on early retirement credit for any kind of 12304B service. If you've been ordered to Title 10 active duty under 12304B for combatant commands, it used to not come with any benefits at all. When it started in 2012, no benefits. Last year we got GI Bill benefits that was retroactive to 2012. This year we're working on early retirement benefits that would be retroactive to 2012. Don't you know that's really important? So we're working on it, and hopefully that'll happen this year as well. The next thing we're working on is Military Student Identifier. For all those kiddos that are in school that are active duty kiddos, they have a student identifier that the school system puts on there that shows that they have a mom or a dad that might be deployed, and so therefore they may be having some emotional issues or trouble with their homework. But there's no such identifier for Guard and Reserve kids. We really need that, and so we've partnered with Congress to try to change the law just a little bit to also indicate those that are Guard and Reserve kids, because as you're aware, a night away from home is a night away from home, and it doesn't matter whether it's training or deployment, the kids suffer from that, and so we need to make sure we have that. We're also working on toxic exposure and burn pit issues. Right now there's a study that's going on, and as you're aware, if you've been deployed, they burn stuff overseas that smells to high heaven, and it has actually caused cancers. And so we're trying to work on legislation that not only gets DOD to come up with a different way to incinerate the waste, but also to get VA to have a presumption of disability for those that were exposed to burn pits. So we're working on that too. We're working on employer tax credits that are scalable. Scalable means that there's a basic tax credit for hiring a guardsman, but in addition to that, the more that guardsman deploys, the higher the tax credit goes. And so we've got introduced some legislation on that, and we're working that as well. VA mental health, right now we're working on a VA mental health plan for every guardsman. As you're aware, the figure is about 20 or 22 suicides per day of veterans, including those that are currently serving. Of those, 14 out of that 20 or 22 have no access to the VA because they don't have a DD-214. And so what we've done is partner with Congress to say we need to open our vet centers up for those currently serving to be able to come in and get mental health care even if they're not normally eligible for VA care. And so we're working that one as well. We're also working with the committees on, legislation is not introduced yet, but we're working with the committees on a GI Bill credit for every day you're in uniform, and that includes your drills and your annual training. And so right now the only GI Bill credit you get is if you go Title 10 or certain things under Title 32. This would give GI Bill credit for every day in uniform, and so we're involved with that. We're looking at revoking the 8515 rule in schools. The VA has a rule for GI Bill that you can't have more than 85% of a particular class using the GI Bill, and if the percentages get skewed against military members, then they'll have to withdraw out of the class and lose their tuition. And so we're meeting with the Secretary of VA to try to get that completely rescinded so that we don't have that issue anymore. We're looking at federal hiring preference for guardsmen and reservists. Right now, if you are a veteran and you apply for a civil service job, you can get 5 points in 5 preference points towards hiring, 10 if you're a disabled vet. This legislation would give you 2 to 3 to 4 points extra just for currently serving in the Guard and Reserve. So I have some more. Federal tuition assistance for Air Guard folks. That's a big thing. We've heard from our membership on that. The Army Guard has it, the Air Guard doesn't. And so we've written a letter to the Director of the Air Guard, and we're working with Congress on establishing funding for federal tuition assistance for the Air National Guard. It's an issue that we're working hot and heavy. You'll hear more about that later. We're also looking at removing the 1/30th rule for those of you who are in aviation skill sets. As you are aware, on drill weekends, you get 1/30th of the pay. So if you have a MUTA 4, you get 4 days pay of your aviation career incentive pay, or what other incentive pays you might have for aviation, because they're prorated on the 1/30th rule. We're looking at getting rid of the 1/30th rule altogether. The committees have been open to this as a retention tool for those in the aviation skill sets. The next issue I'd like to talk to you about is TRICARE for Life. For those that are retirees or thinking about becoming a retiree, TRICARE for Life is a great benefit once you hit Medicare age 65. That would be people like me. TRICARE for Life right now is a wraparound coverage for Medicare. You apply for Medicare Part A and Part B, you pay the Part B premium, you get TRICARE for Life for free. You don't have to have a Medicare Advantage plan. And what you haven't seen in legislation is any kind of cost increases or anything that has to do with TRICARE for Life, and that's because we've been fighting for you to keep that out of legislation. And so sometimes your association's doing things that don't show up in paper, and that's because we fought against them. One of the things that we fought against was last year. On the House side, last year, there was language in the bill for those that are on TRICARE for Life to move into a demonstration project or a pilot project. You got to be careful when you hear those two words, they're trouble. Demonstration project for 2 years to put all TRICARE for Life people into a Medicare Advantage plan paid for by DOD. Sounds great, doesn't it? What was going to happen in year 3? DOD was going to drop their funding, you're going to have to pick it up, and no more TRICARE for Life. So we fought against that, got it stripped out, and it's not there. And so hopefully that won't come up again, but if it does, we'll fight against it again just to make sure that you have your benefit that you need. TRICARE Dental Program. The TRICARE Dental Program is a program for Guard and Reserve folks to get their dental care, and you pay a premium for it. What DOD did this year is they put language in the bill that says that they need to issue a report on moving everybody into FEDVIP, the Federal Employees Dental and Vision Plan, and pretty much shut down TRICARE Dental Program. There is one carrier right now, that's United Concordia with TRICARE Dental. There are 10 different carriers under FEDVIP. Last year, the retirees were in the TRICARE Retiree Dental Program moved into FEDVIP. We went from one carrier to 10 carriers and a choice, and out of 1.8 million retirees that were in the TRICARE Retiree Dental Program, 1.4 of them chose a carrier under FEDVIP. So that went very smooth. They thought they'd do it again this year and put all the TRICARE, all the Guard and Reserve folks and active duty family members that are under TRICARE Dental Program under FEDVIP as well. A little bit different scenario here. The big deal here is they haven't said anything about subsidies, and so that may mean that you have to pay the full cost of your TRICARE program and not just a subsidized cost. The second thing is deployability. You know, part of the deployability is your dental readiness. And with 10 different carriers and no longer being under DOD and no longer having DEERS access and no longer having access to MHS Genesis or any kind of electronic health record that the military has, and having a myriad of different carriers, you may or may not end up dentally ready for deployment. And if you're not ready for deployment, it could cost you your job. And so we're poking around with Congress and with the Defense Health Agency and questioning this move to FEDVIP in favor of readiness. And so more to follow on that, but we wanted to let you know that we are working on that for you. The last thing I wanted to tell you is that we meet on a monthly basis with the Defense Health folks, the people who run TRICARE, and with the Secretary of VA. We have a monthly breakfast with the Secretary of VA. We have a monthly meeting with the Defense Health folks. On a quarterly basis, we meet with the Secretary of Defense and some of the main people in DOD, and we meet with the Secretary of the Army as well. And in all of these meetings, to the best of our knowledge, we're the only ones that represent the National Guard. We represent you in these meetings. So if you have something that you need us to bring up, or if you have some comments on any of the issues I've brought up, or if you'd like to share with us what your experience is, please do. My email is frank@ingus.org, or you can hit us up at ingus@ingus.org. You can call us at 800-234-3264. I'm at extension 4. Or you can hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. Let us know how you feel. And oofta, have we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and I hope you enjoyed this. Have a good day.